Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. ISIS, All That Glitters. The goddess next door takes on a bikini-clad bank robber in this action-packed all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS, All That Glitters in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Sometimes when I'm promoting books on social media, I run into people so stupid, it's just not funny. And this Sunday night, when I was out promoting the ISIS series in a Facebook group, I ran into an SJW who was so mind-bogglingly stupid, it just wasn't funny. Now, this individual decided to leave a comment in the link I dropped for ISIS Samurai Goddess, and he decided to tell me, "Hello, Shawn, please do not take this wrong, but the title of the book ISIS in many parts of the world is a huge negative. I understand the story has nothing to do with ISIS, and we would not promote this book in our feature films as being advertised just because of the title." Now, when I take a critical examination of this statement, this is an SJW coming from the perspective of the world they live in, and because this title does not fit in the world they live in, they can't see the world from a larger context. So this person shows me that they have been living in a bubble for some time, and they haven't really gone out to experience the world, the culture of the world, nor have they studied the history of the world. So because it comes from his narrow connotation of the now defunct Islamic State, he sees the title of ISIS as some sort of negative. And again, he is coming from his narrow perspective of the world and not the overall broad historical context of the world that came before them. And this is a big problem with most of these SJWs out here, is they only see the world that's going on around them now and don't have any understanding of the world in the context of overall history. Because if he had some sort of understanding about the context of the world, he would understand that Isis is the Roman name of the goddess of fertility, who was served in both ancient Egypt and ancient Nubia, two countries that came thousands of years before any sort of connotation was associated with the name ISIS by your mainstream media to deal with the so-called Islamic State. That's what this individual would understand if they understood anything as related to history, or if they had studied global studies back when they were in high school. And it seems like these SJWs, they don't really understand the context of history because no one really seemed to teach it to them. So to say that the name ISIS would be a huge negative, that's ridiculous, because it's only negative as related to the mainstream media, who uses that name because they don't want to use the official name of the Islamic State, ISIL. And what this guy does, again, is coming from his perspective of the world, not understanding the name ISIS and how it is related to African history and ancient Egyptian mythology, Nubian mythology, and how the goddess Isis was a mother goddess. So this person comes out of his narrow view of knowledge and just shows how completely ignorant they are. And that's something your SJW does, is show the world how completely ignorant they are. And then what's even worse than their ignorance is their arrogance. So this individual, after telling me that they understand the story has nothing to do with a defunct terrorist organization, then tries to go on to tell me that he would not promote the book in his feature films as being advertised just because of the title. Well, I don't have any contract with this individual for any sort of project. And for them to presume that their films are so important, that just shows how arrogant they are, because I'm not asking for them to go out here and offer to buy my rights to my intellectual property. And from the arrogant and presumptuous way they have presented themselves, I wouldn't even want to sell to an individual like this, because they clearly have no respect for the character, they have no respect for the mythology the character came from, and they have no respect for the material. And if you are going to get this butthurt over the title of a series, it shows me again how little maturity they have as an individual, and again how they are just so caught up in their world that they cannot see that there was a world before them and there's going to be a world after them. And this person is going to sit there and try to tell me I should rethink the title of the ISIS series and tell me that this series would not attract any more readers and buyers, even though the ISIS character has been around on the SJS Direct imprint since 2002 and has been selling books on numerous platforms such as Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle formats, has been selling on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Barnes & Noble for over 7 years, and has sold not only in the United States, but it's also sold in Canada, has sold in the UK, has sold in Germany, has sold in France, has sold in Mexico, sold in Belgium, and even as far as Japan and the Czech Republic. So you telling me that this ISIS book having this name on the title is going to be a negative in some parts of the world, that's just completely ridiculous, because the ISIS character, as most readers have known her over the last 7 years all over the world, they have not seen any sort of negative connotation as related to the goddess next door, and they've had no problem picking up the books that feature the goddess next door over the last 7 years I have been writing this book. And again, it just shows you how arrogant and presumptuous these SJWs are, and how they are so self-centered and so narcissistic, and how they want to arrogantly presume that a name is going to be negative because of what they saw in current day media, instead of going out to expand their horizons and see a world outside of the one that they live in. Because to say that this title would be a negative without looking at the material, that just shows how deeply dysfunctional these SJWs are. They want everything to fit into their world, and they don't want to come out of their world. And that's what I saw with this incident that transpired on Facebook. But what that showed me was that some of these people out here, they just don't want to think about anything that's not in their box, and if they want to just go out here and make a judgment just based on a title, and then want to presume to tell me not to use a title on a book. Well, back in 1999, when I created the ISIS character, I wanted to create a positive heroine for young black girls, and I wanted to create a heroine that showed a positive example of black womanhood to young black girls. And that doesn't seem to be something that this individual wanted to pick up on. They got caught up in their feelings over the name ISIS, and got caught up in their feelings about something they saw in mainstream media, not looking at this book in a children's Facebook group, and understanding that the name ISIS has nothing to do with any sort of Islamic terror state, and never did have anything to do with it. That was what the mainstream media called it. But again, that requires critical thinking, and sadly, the SJWs don't know how to think critically, and they want to tell you how to think, even though they don't know how to think themselves. Now, when it comes down to the ISIS series, again, I designed this to be family-oriented fantasy, and the book Samurai Goddess was not having any sort of negative connotation at all. It was just a story similar to what they present in manga, similar to what they present in comic books, and similar to what most people would give to their children, and it had no negative connotations at all. Unfortunately, when you deal with SJWs, they want to project their feelings onto a character, and they want to judge books by their cover without even taking a look inside. And it just shows me how judgmental these SJWs are, and moreover, how incredibly stupid some of these SJWs are, how they want to tell you about your character without ever taking a look at their story. If you want to see the book that this SJW wanted to denounce, ISIS Samurai Goddess, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com in the description box. And if you want to pick up the books of the ISIS series and check out the adventures of the Goddess Next Door, you may also do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. There you will find all of the ISIS series books in paperback and Kindle formats, and you will enjoy the fun and fantastic adventures of the Goddess Next Door. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.